Welcome to the Strategic Veteran, where we chart the course from service to civilian triumph. I'm Adam Peters, a veteran, entrepreneur, and your fellow navigator in the quest for a life of impact and fulfillment. My mission is simple: to empower you with the tools and stories that turn challenge into opportunity. Having walked the path from active duty to where I stand now, I understand the search for purpose that comes with hanging up the uniform. It's a path I've walked, with its trials, its tribulations, and its victories, and it's a journey we're on together. This podcast is more than just conversation. It's a beacon for those seeking to redefine our missions through entrepreneurship. It's about igniting the entrepreneurial spirit that lives within us, the spirit that compels us to create, lead, and make our mark on the world. Here we connect with veterans who have built businesses, sparked change, and found their purpose in the marketplace of ideas. They're not just surviving, they're thriving. They've transformed their service into startups, their experiences into enterprises, and they're proof that you can too. So whether you're scribbling business plans on napkins or stepping into the arena of innovation, remember, you're not alone. You're in good company. So let's explore these stories of transformation and take the first steps together on our path to purpose. Let's begin. Welcome back to the Strategic Veteran Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Peters, and today we're honored to introduce Otis McGregor, a retired Green Beret and entrepreneur with 25 years experience in the Army Special Forces. Starting his journey from enlisted service in the National Guard to becoming a Special Forces officer, Otis's career has been shaped by resilience, integrity, and an unwavering dedication to growth. After transitioning from a decorated military career, Otis found himself initially without a career plan. However, a pivotal moment of self-reflection set him on a new path, one focused on empowering others through leadership and purpose. Today, Otis shares his story as an author, speaker, and founder of his leadership organization, Tribe and Purpose. In this episode, we'll delve into Otis's journey from military service to civilian life, his challenges and triumphs, and his commitment to leading with intention. Join us as we explore what it truly means to live with purpose and the wisdom Otis brings to veterans looking to redefine their missions beyond the military. Let's welcome Otis, a true strategic veteran and an inspiring example of purpose-driven leadership. Otis, brother, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, Adam. Always great to hang out with you. Just like you said in the green room that if we're not careful, we'll just shoot the shit all day. So
we really will. Yeah. Dude, everybody, same question for everybody when they come on. First question: where did you grow up and what inspired you to ultimately become a Green Beret?
So I grew up in Texas, and I grew up in the shadow of a strategic air base, strategic air command, the good old days of the Cold War, the Carswell Air Force Base where there was B-52s. And every day those B-52s would take off to go bomb the Soviet Union with nuclear weapons. And thank God every day they did not get the code word to continue on the mission. But every day, as a kid, I spent all my time outside. I'd see those jets flying over. And my dad was an aerospace engineer and worked at the plant right next door to Carswell Air Force Base, designing and building the F-16. And I went to him one day, I think it was probably 8th grade, 9th grade. And I said, Dad, I want to be a fighter pilot. He said, that's great, son, but you'll never be a fighter pilot because you wear glasses.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be in the Air Force unless you're a pilot. I'm like, huh. So I kind of sulked and thought about it for a minute and left Dad's office, and then came back in and said, well, then I'll just join the Army. And I went I did my research, what little you could do back then, and discovered Texas A&M. Loved the blend of the Corps cadets and civilians, that mix. Because West Point did not appeal to me for some reason or another. Never even thought about applying. Went to A&M in the Corps Cadets. While there, I enlisted in the Texas Army National Guard, Lone Star somewhere. Where's it at? There it is.
I see it. Yeah.
There it is. Lone Star. I was a tank driver. My tank was 5 years older than me.
You were a 19 Delta?
19 Echo.
Oh, okay. A little bit before my time.
Yeah. Here's my, when I got promoted to sergeant and I was a TC, we were out doing maneuver training at Fort Hood, and I always remember, we're in a wedge formation and we're doing all the platoon tank maneuvers and things like that, and just I'm up there in that cupola and I'm just riding it like a bronco, just getting thrown around back and forth. Don't dare let go because you'll crack a rib if you do. And I always remember hearing this sound over my engine, this high, kind of like that. And I look over from where the sound was coming from, and there's his M1. And the TC is up there like he's cruising the boulevard, and they're doing about 35, 40 miles an hour. We're doing about 15. And he just kind of does
later. That. Yeah.
What's up, dude? What's up? Yeah, it was just the most amazing difference in technology that you could ever experience. I mean, I was in a frickin' Viking rowboat, and they were in, SpaceX jet.
Norwegian cruise ship.
Yeah, it was just unreal. But yeah, I enlisted. The reason I enlisted was because I wanted the experience. I wanted to know what it was like to go to basic training, what it was like to be a soldier, what it was like to be a private before I got commissioned, because I was already in the A&M ROTC program. So I did 3.5, just short of 4 years enlisted time in the Guard, and then got commissioned as an engineer. And as I always say, I took my beautiful Texas bride with me to our first duty station, Fort Wainwright, Alaska. And that is why I spent the rest of my career in the Army for 25 years, and why Miss Suzanne and I are still married, is because we spent 4 years at Fort Wainwright, and it's either going to make it or break it, both Army and married life. So
I believe it. I got stuck in the deployment cycle of the third ID. So that was my first duty station. Between my second and third deployments to Iraq, I came down with orders to go to Fort Wainwright, and I was not happy about it, but I was excited about it at the same time, because I truly joined the Army for the idea of PCSing every couple of years and just seeing the country. And so I was like, this is going to suck because I don't like cold weather at all, period, whatsoever. And I remember going through, because they treated it back then like an overseas tour, and you have all these rules and regulations you have to abide by before you go up there, and all this kind of additional training you have to do. And they said something similar to all of us that were in this briefing that you just said, is like, this will either make or break you in your Army career. Fort Wainwright is no joke. And so I resonate with what you're saying, even though they moved me and sent me on another deployment. So I got out of the Fort Wainwright thing, but ended up having to go to Iraq a third time. So it's like, whatever. I like that you joined the Guard to experience enlisted life, essentially, right? And I think that's ultra powerful, because I don't know how your experience was, but I mean, and you were an officer as an engineer after you got commissioned, obviously, but I saw a lot of officers that would come through, particularly from the service academies, that were not quality officers. They had no clue. They just I'm better than you because I'm a butter bar and I went to college. And I think it speaks volumes about you as probably a future leader to want to go and get enlisted experience. And then for you to make sergeant in, just under 4 years, that's pretty impressive, particularly as a tanker. I don't know what points were like back then, but I know what they were when I was in, and they weren't easy to achieve.
No, they weren't. And I have to be honest, I cheated.
How did you cheat? You don't really cheat.
Well, so back then they had this program called SMP. I don't remember what it stood for. I just remember the initials. And what it was when I signed my contract to get commissioned, and I was in the Guard, then I got promoted to E5. And I was a PFC at the time. Time and grade sort of thing, because I'd been in, that would have right around 18 months or so. So I wasn't really paying attention to it because, again, you know, fortunately, my National Guard paycheck was to pay for beer on the weekends. It was not much else. But yeah, that was how I was a lot of the guys that I met in other units, they wore the buttons. You know, I've
Mm,
seen guys that wear just the dot
yep.
on their collar.
I would call them cadidiots. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Well, in my unit, we were because at that point, uh, yeah, shortly after I pinned on the E5, as a TC, because I had earned it already. A lot of these other guys get their ROTC contract and then go enlist and get, they're in a different category. I enlisted and then so it wasn't like I showed up as an E5. So I wore the buck stripes, and then I changed units, and I was in part of a LRS D for the 49th Armored Division, the Long Range Reconnaissance Surveillance Detachment. And I was a squad leader at that point. So wearing the hard stripes made it a lot more sense.
So the picture starts to paint itself. So being a part of that LRS unit, I imagine that's probably what pushed you over to the Green Beret side once you got to Wainwright after your commission. So let's talk about that. What initially led you to decide, like, hey, Fort Wainwright and the regular Army is not working out for me. Let me go try this really hard thing.
Well, honestly, because it goes back a little bit earlier, I did not want to be an engineer. All I ever wanted to be was an airborne ranger. My entire career, if you will, as a cadet at A&M was all I had ever planned to be. I was the cadet ranger company commander. I spent every spring break, I was on an FTX all 4 years. And we
Out
would
there training, getting ready to go to Ranger School.
on patrol, small unit tactics and patrolling. Right.
Which is not uncommon. I hear that a lot.
Yeah. And we would do that before the spring semester started also in January. So that was all I wanted to do was be an airborne ranger. The Army didn't want me to be an airborne ranger. They wanted me to be an engineer. And so when I discovered that I didn't have to be an engineer, I could volunteer to be a Green Beret. And that was another one of those, you big Army. Raised my hand and volunteered to be a Green Beret because the reason I wanted to be an airborne ranger because probably didn't really know a whole lot about how to be a Green Beret and what a Green Beret was at the time. And I knew what an airborne ranger was. And it was because I wanted to be the best. I wanted to test myself, wanted to work with the best and be part of the best, and always push that envelope. So that was why in Alaska, when I discovered that, I filled out my 4187 and submitted that and trained for selection there in Alaska, and did the whole thing.
What did you learn about yourself in the selection process?
Nobody's really ever asked me that, and I don't know. I know that I can do land nav. I can cover some ground. I'm not afraid of the dark. I'm not afraid of operating by myself in the woods in the middle of nowhere, North Carolina, in the Uwharrie National Forest. And I excel at that. Not that I want to be a lone operator because I love teamwork much more, but I can when I need to. Oh yeah.
Well, sounds like you did learn something about yourself then. No, that's good. So did you? It's always interesting to me because the way I understood it as a enlisted man, officers, particularly I know to go to Ranger Regiment, they get one shot. That's it. If they don't make it, they never get to go back. Is it the same for Green Berets?
No, it's a little bit more flexible. If you get a no-go, well, selection is definitely more flexible. If you get a no-go and you're non-select, depending on why you're non-select, then you can come back there because there's little boxes at the instructors tick, because there are some guys that, no, you don't need to waste your time or our time by coming back. Q course, same thing. We had guys that would recycle. A lot of my friends that I was in the Q course with struggled. I mentioned the Uwharrie National Forest. That was called Troy Trek. Was the event that we did, and at the time it was just the officers that did it. I had, I think we lost half of my class. Recycled that. So,
what got them?
It's an event where you don't know how far you have to go or how many points. A land nav. It's a long range land navigation event is what it is. And at each point that you show up, you have some tasks, some skills that you have to perform, and the instructors are looking for you.
Yeah.
They will identify you, call you out, complete with nods at night. And when they capture you, they take you back to your last point.
Ooh.
So, however, you may have gone 5 kilometers, and guess what? Now you have to do those 5 kilometers again.
That's defeating.
Yeah. So there's a bit of morale, and as I mentioned, you're all on your own. So time management. How much am I going to push myself? Because you don't know when you get to the 4th point. Do I have a 5th point? When you get to the 5th point, do I have a 6th point? You just know that it's going to last more than 24 hours and less than 120.
Good luck.
And you run into people, and you talk to a guy, and he's like, "Yeah, man, I'm on my 3rd point." I'm like, "Holy crap, dude! I'm just going to my 2nd now." He's like, "Yeah," but it doesn't mean anything, because what they do is because everybody, all the instructors have gone through the course too, so they know. But it's a mental game. It's straight up mental game. Do you have the mental capacity to push yourself, because you can't just lollygag it, to push yourself, to manage your time, to manage your body, your health, your routes, to maintain the knowledge, because you still have to be coherent and aware, and water, food, rest, all those things. You got to be doing all those things on your own. Nobody watching. Well, technically the instructors are watching.
They're watching. They're watching.
You're going back to the last point. So
yeah, that's great, man. So you get through Q course, and did you end up becoming an engineer with the Green Berets as well? Since you're already
no officer. So officers are officers. So you have an 18 Alpha in command of the team. You have a 180 Alpha, who's the warrant officer, who's the deputy. And then the team sergeant, 18 Zulu, the E8. And then you have the other skills. There's a 18 Fox, which is the operations and intel sergeant, kind of a deputy team sergeant guy. And then you have a weapons guy, 18 Bravo, senior and junior. Engineer, 18 Charlie, senior and junior. Commo, 18 Echo, senior and junior. And then the medic, 18 Delta, senior and junior. So it's a 12-man team designed. The original design of it comes from the Cold War, and our original missions. Like my team, when I first got to my team, we were just shutting down the Cold War missions. Ours was, we had a packet and a target in Poland to destroy a radio tower, infill, destroy the radio tower, and then the follow-on mission was not exfil. The follow-on mission was build a guerrilla force.
That's so cool. That's so cool to hear, because that's the end of an era with the Cold War stuff and all the plans and all the stuff that you fell in on. And then, you were in long enough, I assume, to transition over to GWOT stuff. And I was fortunate enough to get to do some training with you. Well, probably not you, but with the ODAs before my deployment to Afghanistan. We were originally going to go do village stability operations, which was, I thought, a really cool mission because
my one of my good friends, Scott Mann, was the OIC, the guy in charge, the originator. I don't think he was quite the originator, but the guy who pushed it through. The VSO program was, it's sad. Things would be a lot different. I can just tell you, having walked the walk a few times in some various parts of the world. The VSO program would have changed Afghanistan significantly. The problem,
I believe that 100%. Just training up, before they switched us back to conventional operations, which I thought was extremely stupid because we wasted all of our train up time, going to Texas to train with this ODA because that's who we're going to be attached to over there. We were splitting up our entire infantry company to go with different teams. And then I think about 3 weeks before we were set to leave, they scrapped the whole thing. And, I had 4 total deployments, 3 to Iraq, 1 to Afghanistan. So I got to see village stability operations because you guys were largely running those, whether they called it that or not, kind of in Iraq first, I think. Just that's where I had the most experience. But I'd see all the stuff you're doing out there, living with these, Iraqis and, standing up compounds is really cool because you guys were always good to us conventional forces. We couldn't get equipment. We would run out of boots patrolling on hot fucking asphalt all the time and walking the soles off our boots, and Big Army wouldn't get us anything. So you guys would see that our boots were unserviceable basically, and you just take us to your little warehouse in your compound, like, here, go get what size you need, take a few pairs. We got more than we needed, So you guys are always been fascinating to me. I got a couple buddies that I used to mentor from the conventional army before I got out that are now over there doing their thing as Green Berets. It's really cool, the stuff that you guys do. We're not here to talk about your service. We're here really to talk about life after service. And so you have an illustrious career as a Green Beret, over 20 years. The time comes to retire and your body's broken, you're in pain. It's just more than time, I'm sure. What did your transition look like? Because you didn't have a plan, according to your own words. And 90% of veterans that I talk to that are getting out don't have a plan. So how rough was the transition for you?
I didn't think anything of it, honestly. I just knew that I needed to get a job. And that was the fundamental fault, is that a job is not the solution.
It's not.
And I didn't have mental issues or things going on or any of that sort of stuff. It just was, if I go to a shrink, they'll probably diagnose me with something.
All of us.
I just
without question.
That's how I fix that. So yeah, I'm never sick if I don't go to the doctor, right?
Right, exactly.
So yeah, that was my thought, is I just needed a job. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just thought, well, how much are they going to pay me? And it was an interesting thing. And my most important lesson that I learned it from 2 of my former NCOs that I had hired into Northcom as GS guys. And they taught me the 2 most important things to know when you take the uniform off, and that is you can quit and you can say no. You can quit your job anytime. You can tell everybody, I'm going to lunch, with every intention of returning after lunch. And while you're eating that cheeseburger at McDonald's, change your mind and say, nope, ain't going back. And you know what? The sheriff ain't coming to your house to arrest you for being AWOL. Right? That's number 1. Number 2 is you can say no. Your boss comes to you and says, hey, Adam, I need you to go to this conference next week. We got this thing going on, blah, blah, blah. And you're like,
I don't want to do that.
My father's birthday. And I missed, over half of them while I was in. And that's one of the reasons I got out, so I could spend time with my family. No, I'm not going. And there's no such thing as UCMJ and lawful orders.
There's not.
Those two things kept me from being a mouth breather at company XYZ Incorporated, because I didn't know why. I just know I didn't like it. And in this weird sort of way, I use the metaphor of a deployment. So when you deploy in that first 90 days, the adrenaline's still going. You're figuring things out. Like,
Pumped. Let's get it. Yeah.
Yeah, man, we're going to fix this. We're the ones who are going to end this war, right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, after about the 90-day mark, you start to go, "Jeez, man, when do we leave?"
Exactly.
Well, that's kind of that's the feeling I was getting at these companies. Is 90 days in, man. Dude, every offer letter I accepted, I was like, this is what I'm going to do for the next 20, 25 years. I was fully committed. 90 days in, it was just like a deployment. It was like, oh, man, something ain't right here. This free coffee they get in the break room sucks.
Worse than Army coffee.
The mouth breather, and he snores, and he eats with his mouth. I mean, you just start the carpet in this office building sucks. The parking areas, everything, the commute that was like, oh, this is no big deal. To golly, really, it's going to take me 25 minutes to get there. You start feeling like that, and it's time to quit. And that's what I did. I quit. Without a plan. I'd quit. I would consult. I was a business development consultant. Pretty successful one. And then somebody would hire me because they say, "Oh, you're too expensive as a consultant, so I'm going to hire you." And I said, "Sure," because I wanted that security. And same thing would happen because I didn't learn my lesson until the fifth company, and then when I realized that, it was actually more of an epiphany moment here in the office, feeling sorry for myself because, I'm working for my fifth company and a job that was created for me, chief strategy officer for a small business that's headquartered in my hometown where I grew up, Fort Worth. Carte blanche to travel when I wanted to and meet with whoever I wanted to, and because I'm doing strategy, I was just as miserable and frustrated in that job as I was in the other ones. And that afternoon, I'll just share with you that the story that I went through that afternoon at about the 7-year mark post retirement was feeling sorry for myself, wondering what was wrong with me, because everybody I knew, of course, had these great jobs. That's the way it always looks, right? Why are they, man, they're so happy. They're doing well. As I sat here feeling sorry for myself, I started to analyze my life since leaving the Army. And I realized that only two things had been consistent in my life since leaving the Army. And one is family. Still married my beautiful Texas bride. Just like I said, Fort Wainwright, Alaska can teach you some lessons. And then the other one was that funny shaped ball. Where's my hand at? Right there. You can see the part of it. That rugby ball right there. I just finished my 6th or 7th year of coaching boys high school rugby, a sport I had never played. And I thought to myself, well, why was I spending another full-time job volunteering in a sport I had never played, coaching these young men? And I looked at it and I said, well, 3 parts. Part number 1, rugby. Rugby is a great game, great teamwork, strategy, effort, physical contact,
build resilience. Yeah,
it is awesome. So that was 1. 2 was the boys. It was a club. We were a club team. And when I became the head coach, our house became the default clubhouse. which meant my wife and I had 35 adopted sons in and out of our house all the time. We loved it. But what I realized was part 3 was being the coach, teaching, mentoring, guiding, pushing them, holding them accountable, helping them achieve what they say they wanted to achieve. That's what was fueling me. That's why I became a student of the game. That's why I was doing practice plans at 8, 9 o'clock at night. I was making coordination for referees, for games, for pitches, for fields, for who's playing where and how are we doing this, and coordinating various things in that sense. Was not because I wanted to win a championship, although, winning championships is pretty freaking awesome. But it was because I wanted those boys to succeed. That was my real goal, was I wanted them to succeed. And when I took that bit of information, I started talking with a couple of guys in my inner circle. I got introduced to this thing called coaching, business coaching, executive coaching. And that's when I took what was my consulting business at the time, and I pivoted it into executive leadership training and consulting coaching business that I do now at Tribe and Purpose, and been off and running ever since.
And I think this is a perfect example of what I talk about, what everybody that comes on this show talks about. Is there's these things that we hold on to as we get out of the military, and we wrap our identities up into our military service. And I think the biggest problem I've noticed with anybody transitioning out who struggles is kind of this roller coaster that you and I both have been on, where you learn that you can say no, and that I'm not going to do that, and that I can quit at a job because it doesn't resonate with me, and I'm not going to spend another minute in a position that makes me miserable. So you end up job hopping. But what we really fail to do is what you had done. You said you were sitting around feeling sorry for yourself, and you started taking inventory of your life since you got out of the Army. And this is what I mean when I tell people you need to sit with yourself and explore who you are as a person without the military. I think what happened for you is you discovered what your core beliefs and values and your passions were, and then you built a business out of that. And I think anybody who's getting out can do that. I'm an example. You're an example. There's 100 more examples that I could point to, but it all starts with taking stock of who the fuck we are as people and as individuals without the military. Because I know for me at 17 years old, when I joined, from the time I was 17 to 30, I'm just indoctrinated with what the Army wants me to be, the best infantryman I can be. Right. And that's, I think it's reasonable that, from 17 to 30 years old, that's who you become, because you haven't been given a chance to figure out who you are as an individual. But you just spoke about it. Like, you're already doing this rugby coaching thing because you love it, because it's about what you're giving back to the boys. And it's not about winning championships. It's about instilling these values in these young men that are going to grow up and carry that stuff with you. So you've essentially improved their lives, moved them forward in their journeys, and realize that you can do that for others. And now you have Tribe and Purpose, a successful business. And so I think you're a shining example of what I'm trying to portray with the strategic veteran, for those veterans who are like me and you, who spend 8 years to figure out, what are we supposed to be doing with our lives? And I'm just curious, man, like how was the journey to building Tribe and Purpose? I'm grateful that you have welcomed me into your Tribe and Purpose, and I'm sorry that I missed last week's meeting. Some unfortunate circumstances, I couldn't be there, and it was last minute. I will be at the next one. There's so much incredible value in just the first meeting that I got to go to from your Tribe and Purpose community, that it's a no-brainer when you invited me in. And I'm just curious, like, how did you develop all of that? And how did you come up with with the idea and then have the fortitude to see it through, because I'm sure it didn't take off right in the beginning. I'm sure it was rough. I'm also in a rough spot trying to build my community, right? No income coming in. It costs money to run these things and time. And I still show up every day because I know that I'm making a difference. So talk about your journey with founding Tribe and Purpose and the challenges you face with getting to the point that you're at today.
Yeah. Well, the irony is that I did everything that everybody always says
not to do.
No, what they say to do. Write a book, post video, do a podcast. And then I sat and I waited. I'm looking out the window right here. There's not a line of people out that door. Where are they? I wrote a book.
Right.
I do a podcast. I don't see anybody. That's the harsh reality of it right there. You know, I see this all the time. I don't want to call them competitors because I don't like that term. But other people who are doing similar things to what I do, and I see it, again, it's kind of like, oh, how come all those guys are successful, right? I see that and I'm like, well, but they wrote a book and they're on a podcast. How are they getting it? Well, there's a lot of reasons why. We can go down many roads and theories and get into Otis cynicism also. But we won't do that today. We'll just title the show Otis is Cynical. But it takes hard work. Some people get lucky. Don't get me wrong. There's people that write a book and,
it's a hit right out of the gate. Yeah.
Whether it's a New York Times bestseller or whatever. I mean, I've done all of it. You can see over my shoulder there's a freaking magazine. Look at, I'm a freaking cover model, I got a book, I got this, I got that. I've been doing it consistently. It takes effort, man. You're pushing the wet noodle up the hill. And if you've ever done that and you think about the physics of it, you can do it. Then it ain't easy because that noodle sticks and it rolls and it collapses on itself and all those sort of things. It ain't easy pushing it up the hill. You can do it just like a business.
It's the ability to believe in yourself and show up every day and keep doing it. Because I haven't written a book, but I've done a lot of that. I've been featured in several different publications. I've been on several different podcast episodes, and I can look out my window and I don't have a line of people either. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I just don't. Be standing in between Florida and Colorado. And
that's the reality of the situation is you're going to put in a lot of work up front, delay your gratification, and force yourself. And I mean, be disciplined in having to force yourself to show up every day because you're going to get to that point where you're like, man, nothing I'm doing is fucking working. And this sucks. Like, I'm not seeing any results. And then what will happen is you'll wake up one day and then you'll have this influx of like, you've leveled up, and then it comes with a whole new set of problems. And then you just keep building on all of that. And I agree with you, man. I think anybody can do this if you just get out of your own way and believe in yourself and show up every day. Just show up every single day and do something that moves it forward. Just take some kind of action. And man, don't look at all these. Comparison is the thief of joy is one of my favorite quotes ever. And I really believe that because you look at all these influencers on social media now, and I don't like the term influencer because I do understand a majority of them have worked their ass off to build what they have and implement the strategies that they have that are bringing them money. But all we see is where they're at now. We didn't see all the things and all the years, because I tell everybody 2 to 5 years. That's what it's going to take. You don't look at somebody's LinkedIn profile and see that. What you see is the results of their efforts. And so, I'm curious what your advice is for those that want to pursue something like what you and I are doing, something that aligns with their values, beliefs, and passions that I'm convinced you'll never be miserable doing. What advice do you have for them when it gets tough, when you're not seeing results? How do you keep showing up?
I'll throw it at Simon Sinek, who said it, but it can't be the originator of it. I think it's just the more popular one of it is if your why is strong enough, nothing can stop you. And that's clarity and resolve and your purpose. And the other piece of that, and you touched on this, and I want to reemphasize it, is that you have to believe that what you are doing will have an effect to help somebody somewhere at some time. I adopted that idea years ago when I first started doing videos and posting them out there. And in that belief that somebody somewhere, maybe this year, maybe next year, maybe in 5 decades, because YouTube ain't going away and it's evergreen, that somebody somewhere will do a search and go, I never thought about that. Or my newsletter, somebody reads it, every once, probably once a week or I publish weekly. So, but pretty much once a week, maybe a handful of times a month, I'll hear from a reader that says, man, that's just what I needed. And you know what? That's exactly what I love hearing. It validates that belief, right?
I love it. I love it too, man. Yeah, it's starting to pick up for me. Over the last couple of weeks, I've gotten some web form submissions from my website, and one of them absolutely floored me. This guy reached out to me, really long messages in a really dark place, and he's like, man, I was a guest on somebody's podcast. They had released it, shared the short. He found the short on YouTube, found my website. Now he's messaging me, and his first message was a lot of gibberish, and like you could tell he was nervous to reach out. But his second message was like, I've been trying to figure out what I want to say to you all fucking day, and I don't know what to say, so I'm just going to dump everything here. It was really cool for me to be able to respond to that, give him my phone number, and 15 minutes later have a phone call with this guy. And it's like, okay, everything that I created this to do is working. And I'm glad I stuck with it, and I'm being patient because, yeah, maybe it's onesies and twosies right now, but what's it going to look like in another year and another year and another year? And it's created so many opportunities for me that I never thought that I would have, just because I started everything with the strategic veteran just to make a dent in the 22 a day. I got tired of our brothers and sisters, some of the best men and women I've ever worked with, offing themselves for no reason. And when you see something like a web form submission, which most people wouldn't consider a big deal, they'd probably look at it as an inconvenience. Now I got another email to answer, but I look at it like, man, I'm being effective. I'm being the guy I said I wanted to be, that I set out to be. And it's such a cool feeling, man.
Yeah, it is. Well, I mean, it's validating that what you're doing is helping somebody.
Yeah, and I think that's the larger goal. I'm not here for money. I'm not here for fame. I'm not here to be a thought leader or an influencer or anything. I genuinely am just here to be the guy I didn't have when I got out, to help others avoid the same mistakes, give you tools that have largely been kept a secret from us because big pharma and big food suck. And when it starts to work, man, it's just like, like you said, it validates all of the work that I put in over the last year.
Yeah. It's just a little, and the irony of it is when somebody responds back with just a quick little blurb. I'm not talking about the diatribe that you got, but just even thanks, I needed that.
Oh, yeah. When you put out a piece of content on LinkedIn and they're like, this is the exact message I needed to hear today, it's like, man, my post made your day better. It doesn't get any better than that. I love it. So tell everybody, what is Trav and Purpose about? What goes on in there? Paint the picture for them, and let's see if we can't drive some more fine men and women to, such an amazing thing that you've created.
Yeah, well, we are about helping create a legacy of great leaders, because we believe that great leaders create great organizations. And when we have great organizations in our communities, we have better communities. And when we have better communities around the world, we'll have a better world. And that's what we do. That's our fuel. That's our purpose. And the way we do that is we have three lines of effort that we follow. The system, which is our Green Beret Leadership Program. It's our leadership development system, and the Green Beret Leadership Program is part of that. That is helping create leaders, taking my experience in business and Green Beret special operations in life and teaching you those lessons and developing that. And then the next one is we call this one the done for you, and that's our fractional chief operating officers. And what we do is we help that small business CEO founder get his head out of the day-to-day operations so he can do what he does best and what he does better than anybody in the company, which is sell the business and grow the business. And then finally, for our DIYers out there, we have our YouTube channel. Our 10X Your Team is our YouTube channel, and that's where you find our podcasts, our shorts, our whiskey words, well, my whiskey words. Also, a lot of I do a monthly leadership masterclass. Those videos are there. We also do free content from our Green Beret Leadership Program, and we share there. So there is tons and tons of information to help you succeed for free on our YouTube channel. And go there, look up 10X Your Team, hit the subscribe button. Man, the entrepreneurs you've been on, the people that we have on our shows, it's amazing. 380 shows, some odd shows. And then all the content, the videos, from master classes to philosophical whiskey words, there's a lot of information out there to help you grow and become a great leader.
I love it, man. And then you've got, the Trev and Purpose month. Is it monthly or bi-weekly? I can't remember. The one that I missed.
The Veteran Business Leader Mastermind.
Yeah, that one. That's amazing to me. And I want to compliment you. I really like the format for that. And I think this is important for everybody to hear with, the 5 minutes, a little chatter and bullshit before we get started. Then everybody who shows up has to celebrate the wins and the struggles. And that's probably my favorite part. And I think it's my favorite part because it's another level of accountability, but it also forces you, at least me in particular, because I'm so hard on myself that I oftentimes overlook my own successes or things that I should celebrate. And by coming to your mastermind there and having to really rack my brain about what can I be satisfied with since the last time that we met, and then share that with other people to even get advice or congratulations or the proverbial pat on the back that we don't always get as entrepreneurs, I think is really important. And then also what you're struggling with, that was really helpful, because the one that you invited me to, I got to see how others suggest solving those problems. And it really lets you know that, I like you don't like the word competition. I'm all about collaboration. I think that there is more than enough to go around out there. And if we all work together, we can all get to the same place. And when in your community going through that and seeing the willingness of everybody in there to help each other, it's amazing, man. And it's super inspiring. And so how did you come up with that? And what led you to really structure that meeting like that?
I read Napoleon Hill's book a long time ago, Think and Grow Rich. Okay, there. My screen went blank for a second. Just want to make sure. I signed up for another mastermind type of thing with the guy, and more of a sales sort of thing, and learned about it. And then I just took what's in the book what I had experienced in that one I was with for a short period of time, and my life experience in building teams. And that's how I came up with it. The agenda, the people, the frequency, all those sort of things is, yeah, and it works well. It really does.
It does. It works so well, and it's such a great. I mean, just it's not like pressure either. It's just like really good people who genuinely want to hear what you have to say and help you. And at least that's what I got from the one that I was able to get to. And if that's any indication of, and I think I came on a night where you said like we didn't even have half the people that are usually there. So, I can't see how that could get any worse. It's got to be so much better the more people that come in there, and the more brains you get to pick. And it also strikes me as a group too that is not going to let you off the hook in your struggles either, right? Like they're going to hold you accountable to either the things that you say you're going to do, or they're not going to sugarcoat the feedback like, hey, you're fucking this up, like this is a better way, you should probably think about implementing that. Ultimately it's up to you whether you take the advice or not, but I can imagine there's a world in which we come back and you get questioned about that, and then you're going to get it all over again because you chose not to take good advice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I get a lot out of it too. I mean, I'll admit, there's plenty of times that around 1700 or so, I'm like, but by the time we start and kick off and run it through, yeah, I always get something out of it myself. So
it's great, man. Let's wrap this up, man, with what has being an entrepreneur allowed you to do? Why do you think I don't know. I have the idea that the path back to purpose for veterans is through entrepreneurship. I genuinely believe that you can take anything that you're passionate about and earn an income around it. I understand that entrepreneurship may not be for everybody, but I think everybody can be for it. So, let's wrap this up by like, what does entrepreneurship do for you that maybe those 7 jobs that you had before didn't do? And then what advice do you have for those veterans who are curious about entrepreneurship that may not be ready to pull the trigger yet?
Well, what I get out of it, and the reason I do it, is because I get to help who I want to help and work with the people I want to work with and do what I want to do. Even though there's crap that I don't want to do in the business, but I know that crap that I don't want to do leads to getting to do more of what I want to do. And that freedom to really, there's a whole lot of subsets, but the bottom line is the freedom to work with who I want to work with is the most important piece. If I don't like somebody, I don't have to work with them. If I don't want to do a partnership, a JV, a tell somebody no that has a product or service or whatever, then I tell them, no, I don't want to do that. Not for me. If anybody that is inkling to get into it, it ain't some HBO TV series where, sex, drugs, and rock and roll and happiness. It's hard work. You got to be clear in what you want to do. You got to understand the business world. You got to understand your product, your service that you provide. Why should somebody buy from you and not Adam or me or Joe or Fred or Sam or whomever? You got to be willing to put in some long walks. You've got to be willing to look yourself in the mirror and do the hard work and the hard admission, and you got to be willing to raise your hand and ask for help. Because there's so many systems and processes and people out there that will do it and not charge you a nickel. But you got to look for it and you got to ask for it, because they ain't lining up at your door any more than all your new clients are lining up at the door. So you have to be willing to raise your hand and say, man, I just don't know how to do this. I don't know what to do next. And that's, there's all levels of that. Bunker Labs, Patriot Boot Camp are two that I'm very familiar with. Heck, your SBDC, your Small Business Development Center, every city across America has one.
And these resources are free.
Yeah. And
have you been through the EBV program?
No.
I'm on the short list for it for next year. I'm pretty excited about it. My ACP mentor turned me on to it. That's another free resource, ACP Mentorship, American Corporate Partners. One of the best decisions I ever made when I found out about it. I got a PsyOps guy that's my mentor. So he's a venture capitalist, and it's really cool. And yeah, I couldn't agree more with everything that you said. It is a tough road. It's not sex, drugs, and rock and roll, at least not yet anyway. I don't know. Maybe someday it'll be that way. But I think the reward for me is just complete and total control over my time. It's 100% up to me. There's nobody to blame. Nobody controls this. I get to do it all. And that's what's most important to me. So, man, Otis, thank you so much for coming on and doing this today. I really appreciate it. Please tell everybody where they can connect with you at, reach out to you for your services and all that good stuff.
Yeah, go to our landing page is 10xyourteam.net and subscribe. Subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe to my weekly newsletter, Monday Moments. Again, we love sharing what we know to help others succeed. So do that. And the more that people subscribe, the more that they hit like on all those sort of things, the more people that see it. That's the way the algorithm works. So you're helping us out, and you're helping somebody else out that you don't even know.
It's great. It's great how it works. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Mr. Otis McGregor. Please help me get this in front of 1 million veterans before I turn 40 on May 9th, 2025. It's a lofty goal, but there's 19 million veterans in the United States alone. So I don't see why that should be a problem. In fact, I feel like we could do that with just this episode. So please like, rate, review, share, subscribe, download, all that good stuff. If you see somebody out there that's struggling, that's a veteran, and you think they could benefit from this, like I thought I would benefit from a show like this when I was in that dark place, please make sure you get it in front of them. Until next week, take care, everybody. We'll have another great episode for you. That's our show, and I'm truly thankful you've joined us at The Strategic Veteran. If our conversation today sparked curiosity, or if you're ready to elevate your game, I'm here to help. Visit thestrategicveteran.com for exclusive show notes and resources, or to book a coaching session directly with me. Take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and share your review. Your support makes all the difference. For more insights and daily strategies, let's connect on LinkedIn and keep the conversation going. Remember, this isn't just a podcast, it's your strategic advantage in action. Until our next rendezvous, stay bold and continue the mission.